We're 100 days away from a fiscal cliff. Let's have a look. Hello everyone, Florian.Heise here and welcome to another episode of HeiseSays. I'm still working through my morning coffee and a viewer sent me this article suggesting I have a look. Australia, oh, wrong page. Australia is 100 days away from an economic cliff. I love that image. It's a beautiful picture there. You know, pretty girl and dog on a cliff or a bird. Still, we really are 100 days away from a fiscal cliff. The civilization is on life support, everyone. And the question is, will they continue the fiscal stimulus? We're seeing more and more calls for it in the media. I suspect they'll do whatever they can to throw at housing, because that's all we pretty much have going. So let's have a look. Circle your calendar for the end of September. We're approaching an economic cliff in 100 days. Here's another take on this. Before we go any deeper into this article, let's say you've taken the holiday, the mortgage holiday, and your income hasn't changed too much, but you'll be stashing cash. Unless you're a complete fool, you'd be stashing as much cash away. And then boom, September hits, you lose your JobKeeper, but you've got that stasher pool. You lose your mortgage holiday and you still start paying. It's not going to happen straight on September. There'll be a lag. Or then again, there could be some people so close to the bloody wire that they aren't even able to stash something away. Maybe that could happen as well. That scares me even more. The time of year would normally allot to football finals. We'll see billions of dollars in financial stimulus end. A program supporting millions of workers, apprentices, small businesses, renters, and people with mortgages almost simultaneously. It's a bit like trying to wipe or whip out the tablecloth from under your set of china, warns economist Nikki Hutley. Have you ever managed to do that, guys? I swear, back in my uni days, at a party, too many drinks, and then you get a new dinner set. It's not going to come away smoothly. It's going to be a crash and broken plates everywhere. To save lives, governments moved quickly to stop the spread of the pandemic. When the economy was crushed by restrictions on movement, the normal life, extraordinary and expensive measures were put in place in March. As Ms. Hutley, a partner at Deloitte Access Economics, is concerned about the looming expiry date of the programs linked to a 6-month lifespan rather than specific needs. Well, if we don't link it to a 6-month lifespan, they can start pulling it away already, which they can and which they have been doing. The economy is going to take a bit of a hit if this all comes off. A substantial hit if this all comes off in one day, she says. We could potentially see a couple of percentage points come off GDP in the quarter if that is all unwound in one hit. Do you reckon they'll do it, everyone? Do you think they'll pull it off? I don't think they'll manage. I don't think they'll be able to do it. I think they'll stretch it out one way or another. Just wait, we haven't started hearing many calls yet in the mainstream media for universal basic income. And there will be, they'll appear. My biggest gripe with UBI is, well, to work. And I think, honestly, it's the implementation of UBI, I would align to all the grain handouts and luxuries that were given to the plebeian class at the fall of the Roman Empire. I'd say it's the mark of an end of a civilization. I mean, we've had a good run. Western civilization, a couple 100 years in Australia, America, a few more. Nonetheless, to implement properly, you need to remove all of the other social safety nets to just simplify it. So then the cost of implementing it disappears, or it's not as well. You get the savings from all the dole and all the other stuff that disappears, but I suspect you'll have special interest groups vying for increased UPI plus, or UBI bonus, UBI here. Can you see that happening? So the list of expiring programs and the breadth of people they're supporting is extensive. The JobKeeper wage subsidy covers 3.5 million workers, paying employers $70 billion to keep them on the books. And I wonder if two reasons that was done. To keep people out of unemployment, to keep a relationship with their employer, which is very important, and I can understand that. but to avoid a tremendous strain on Centrelink. Because we're living in a civilization now where most people don't even have a reserve, where they're living hand to mouth, where they're dependent on the state to take care of them. Past generations would have seen that as pathetic. Now it's probably something that people envy or they strive for. It's kind of sad in a way. The supplement of $5.50 a fortnight goes to a range of welfare recipients, including 1.6 million unemployed workers on JobSeeker. A wage subsidy for apprentices, small to medium enterprise loan guarantee, where the government backs 50% of new loans issued by lenders. Subsidies for domestic air travel, a ban on rental evictions if a person has lost income due to the pandemic, and mortgage pausing for owner-occupiers and landlords, essentially stopping repayments. I mean, that's insane. Just shows you. The free market's failed. We barely have a free market, everyone. We really barely do. It's so much intervention in our market. The interest rates are completely controlled, centrally controlled. So losing a second income is a real kick for many families. And here's the thing. We're now at a point in time where you need a dual income household just to get by. Just to get by. Where previous generations, that was not necessary. You can have one partner staying at home to actually raise your own children. Then there's less demand on childcare. Then there's less need for government subsidies. Then there's less need for taxation. It's a funny little circle, doesn't it? And probably better social outcomes. And probably more resilient humans. So, Kate Wild has spent a career here and abroad working in change management as an organizational and project manager. Now her life is changed. Miss Wild is between contracts because her project was shut by the pandemic, renovating a house with a mortgage that is paused, and her husband's salary as a warehouse manager is being paid for by the JobKeeper wage subsidy scheme. Those supports will be removed in September. Is he still actually working, or is he just getting the job seeker? That's the difference. I don't think our situation is anything different or more extreme than the 1.6 million unemployed Australians at the moment, she said. We're probably better off than a lot of people. What has been difficult is that all our expenses and our mortgage have been set up as a two-income family. We've always been full-time employed. Our mortgage reflects 2 full-time incomes, so it's been a real kick. And that's the problem. That's the problem. If people are looking now, if you're looking now buying a new first home, and you're a young couple, make sure you can do it on one person working, so that if someone loses their job, the other partner can go out and find work. You've got twice the capacity of people to get work to keep the family unit going. Okay, and that's not my misogynistic argument, guys. This is just reality. When you work together as a team, you don't overstretch. So they're living beyond their means. They're living beyond their means. Now they're dependent on the state to save them. So the mortgage holidays are the first thing to end. The first support to end isn't from the government. 100 days from today, on September 20, many Australians will need to start paying their mortgages again. And it'll probably be a higher payment because they've had a holiday. They've had a mortgage holiday. When the pandemic really hits home in March, Australia's major banks acted agreeing to pause mortgages if customers requested. The move didn't necessarily cost them money in the long term. Most extended the loan's terms by 6 months or just accrued the interest, but it gave customers some breathing room. I mean, this just tells me how close to the wire people are. How many people are on the verge of being on arrears. How few people have 3 to 6 months of money set aside. That's what it should be. You should have 3 to 6 months of your expenses set aside. But we were never taught that at school. We were never taught financial management at school. And sometimes you need to make mistakes to learn that. Make some stupid mistakes in business, lose some money, and go never again. And I'm hoping this will be a never again for a generation of Australians. But you're a bit old to be learning the never again moment at that age. But then again, I shouldn't be unfair. The thing is, will these people start selling their houses? What happens if the stimulus gets pulled away? And remember, all of this fiscal stimulus, it's future taxation, everyone. One way or another. If you're a magic money theorist, and you believe money is just comes out of nothing, or currency, or whatever, and they'll print and spend, then they'll just tax to managers. Or the government's going to incur so much debt that they'll just have to tax us in the future. So it'll be her children will be paying for this, or her children's children. It's a sad thing. By mid-May, an astonishing 1 in 14 mortgages were on hold. That's 429,000 mortgages worth $153.5 billion. If you include other deferred loans, it's 703,000 accounts. Wow, worth $211 billion. That is insane. That's insane. Australian families who are financially affected by this crisis have had the breathing space they needed with a 6-month deferral on their home loan repayments. While they chart a path through to the other side of this downturn, Australian Banking Association Chief Executive Anna Bligh said back when the figures were released. Well, hopefully these people... I mean, let's know in the comments, guys, what have you done? If you've been in this situation, how have you adapted? I mean, reduce costs, get rid of every subscription you don't need. Sell everything you can while there's still a market for it. Sell your secondhand stuff. I've got my Xbox One I never play. I should sell it. I'm just too lazy. I've got all these old computers I don't use. I should sell them. You know? Collect the scrap metal from around your house. I've got an old pipe I found. I'm digging it up. And I'll put it aside and I'll take it to the scrappies. And honestly, I will probably only get enough money to pay for the coffee that I get, because when I leave the house on the way to the scrapyard, I always need my 7-Eleven coffee. But still, it's the little things. It's the little things. Banks have been checking in with customers who deferred loans. A hard stop to the scheme is unlikely, but each institution will make its own decision, possibly on a customer-by-customer basis. Unemployment to see benefits halved. Now this, do you think this will continue? Guys, affecting even more people, the $550 a fortnight pandemic supplement will stop on September 24, according to Services Australia, the department administering it, even though Treasury says the scheme is supposed to run 6 months, and the first payments were made on April 27, implying a late October end date. The supplement goes to the 1.6 million people receiving the job seeker unemployment payment, which used to be called New Start or the dole. The supplement essentially doubles the payment, taking it from below the poverty line to around $1,100 a fortnight. And it's pretty low, guys. It's not much money. It's not designed. Well, it's designed as an emergency payment to people to keep them out of destitution, to keep them from needing to resort to criminal activity, to support themselves. But the problem is, we're looking at an extended recession, everyone. And where would you rather the money goes to stimulate the economy? I mean, we're all going to be inflated to nothing. That's going to happen. They're going to generate more money, pump it in the economy. Would you rather it go to the banks, or would you rather it go to people on benefits? And I know there will always be some people that abuse the system. That's just, it's going to happen. But you have to remember, guys, the state has forcibly stolen money from people. Just because they happen to be born or immigrated to this country, the state pretty much has a right to take a portion of any money that you earn under threat of force or jail. So then they should have a duty of care, don't they? I'm sure they're spending our money wisely, aren't they? I mean, just think about this. Think about how much money that Australia is churning out and printing. We're not America. We don't have the magic US dollar. And Property Council is trying to attract more people over here. It's kind of a sucker's game. You know, come over. And your children will be indebted in Australian debt for generations to come. So, the boost is also received by people receiving the partner allowance, widow allowance, sickness allowance, youth allowance, AB study, Oz study, living allowance, parenting payment, farm household allowance, and special benefits. So you can see why I suspect this will be UBI in the future, guys, if they ever create it. Early in the crisis, 18-year-old Avery Howard, who receives youth allowance and hadn't been financially supported by her parents since the age of 15, told the ABC the supplement had changed his life. I've said it to a friend the other day, and it struck me how crazy it is, but I've told them I've just gotten used to not having to make meals I've just gotten used to not having as many meals as I'm supposed to, Mr. Howard said. Yeah, okay. As Professor Geinel Kalb from the Melbourne Institute of Applied Economics and Social Research at the University of Melbourne says, late September will be a difficult moment for businesses and individuals. If more people have less income to spend, that has an impact on how much they will spend on services in Australia and on buying consumption goods, she explains. Well, yes, that's going to happen. Consumer confidence is low. So it's not just the industries that are directly affected by people not visiting, for example, cafes or restaurants, but also other businesses who are dependent on people buying goods because they have sufficient income to do so. Also expiring is the 6-month ban on rental evictions. Well, considering the number of articles that I've got lined up, we looked at one earlier today, or I may issue that later today, about, well, Canberra rent price reductions and happening in every single city. I don't think evictions are going to be that big a problem, everyone. I don't think it's going to be that big a problem. I think people are going to be doing whatever they can to keep their tenants in place. On March the 29th, the National Cabinet agreed to a memorandum on evictions for commercial and residential tenants in financial distress who were unable to meet their commitments due to the impact of the pandemic. Different states and territories passed legislation backdating the 6-month ban to begin on March 29. You've got to love that, don't you? Even with the ban soon to expire, there is no solution to the growing problem of tenants who have paid less or not been able to make any payments, accruing large debts for unpaid rent. So the sudden JobKeeper withdrawal could be catastrophic because we've now got all these zombie companies. Think about all of this mess that's being created because of this lockdown to the economy. Now, don't tell me businesses aren't going to consider this as an element of risk. Are they going to set money aside, or are they going to lobby to ensure their industry is the one that's propped up by the state the next time they start to close the economy? Or is this just another step to the dystopian socialist deathscape that we'll be heading towards? That's the concern, I think, that's looking at these young people. That's the big concern. Then there's the big one, JobKeeper. The wage subsidy is currently supporting 3.5 million workers and costing $70 billion. Now, I bet you there are a whole lot of industries that are getting this that don't need it. A Treasury miscalculation originally had it supporting 6 million workers at a cost of $130 billion. Treasury is currently reviewing the scheme. Already 120,000 childcare workers have been told they'll lose access to the support in July. On Wednesday, international economic policy body, the OECD, called on the government to extend the wage subsidy scheme. It would be catastrophic for the Australian economy if every single means of support were withdrawn simultaneously in the space of a week. You can't put hundreds of billions of dollars worth of stimulus in the economy and then pull it out without expecting there to be some sort of negative impact. Most likely is a tapering of programs and ongoing support for sectors like tourism that won't snap back to normal by the end of September. Now, I suspect that's what will happen. Unfortunately, this recession is not just going to disappear overnight. You know, it could be years before unemployment gets anywhere near the pre-pandemic levels, Ms. Hutley added. She's right. This is going to have a scarring effect on a generation. There's going to be a lot of people that don't know what a recession is. The only good news is that this gives government the time to make considered decisions supporting sectors in a way that strengthens them to be more productive when more normal conditions return. If we don't have some type of support, it would be a very nasty shock yet again and could send us off kilt for a more measured recovery over the years to come, she warns. The only positive I'm taking from all this intervention, is the fact that we have a liberal government. There's less chance of social justice being tied to these systems. Can you see, all the Labour pundits that are arguing for like the wage gap and all these other fantasies that they believe in? Can you see them tying all their social justice requirements and leftist ideology into these schemes to prop up these small businesses? Or am I just being way too cynical? Let me know what you think, guys. Because frankly, there's not much difference between the two big parties at the moment. So it would be very dangerous in my view. Professor Caleb agrees a hard stop to support risks undoing the strong work the government has done to support the extraordinary economic challenges of dealing with the pandemic. Well, no, it's the extraordinary economic challenges of forcing the economy to close down. Doing everything on the same day doesn't sound like a good idea, she says. Well, yeah, no, that does seem insane. Look at the parts of the economy that are least affected and start there, and then, as a result, have more funding left over for the parts of the economy that are really doing bad. And beware the butterfly effect. Kate Wild remains optimistic, but is concerned about the impact of support being removed from the economy. I can't understand how we can be looking at a hard stop as a nation, she explains, explaining the situation using the analogy of her local hairdresser. Right now, well, from my own personal experience, hairdressers are not people I need to use very often, even though my mother is a hairdresser and I could get free haircuts for my entire life. Just shows you. Right now, I can't afford to go to the hairdresser, and that's okay. I'm like literally a million other people who can't afford to go to the hairdresser, but we actually need people to feel comfortable to go. The hairdresser needs to pay their staff. My hairdresser uses Australian products, so when they can't stay open, we're seeing smaller businesses affected. We're seeing Australian manufacturers affected. As Miss Wild continues to renovate her home, which the family may have to sell into an uncertain market, she's concerned about the impact of millions of other people losing support at the same time. I'm deeply worried about that butterfly effect, she said. I may not be eligible for any of those job seeker subsidies, but I need the rest, bit of a slip there, isn't it? The rest of Australians to be getting it so that our economy can recover. Or maybe you should have put some money aside so you could ride out 6 months of uncertainty. Or is that good old Florian blaming the victim again, everyone? Am I doing that again? Let me know in the comments. So what do you think? What do you think? I would be shocked if they actually do a hard Brexit. If they do a hard Brexit, or our version of it, with regards to this stimulus package. I think they'll peter it off because, they need to build their bridge to the future. But too bad it'll have cracks and it'll fall. We'll have to see, everyone. We've got 100 days to find out. I suspect the biggest impact of all of this won't materialize until February next year. So there'll be, the Christmas buzz, activity. We'll see those sale figures come in. Maybe people will spend a bit more. Maybe afterpay payments will go up. Maybe that credit card will be run through that machine a few times many. The economy's good. I just saw that news.com article about job ads. It's surging. And then reality will hit. As always, please let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comments below. Like, share, and subscribe to the channel. If you're a fan and want to support the content I create here, there are a few ways you can. You can join the channel on YouTube or Patreon. You can support us via our affiliate links at Amazon or eBay or Independent Reserve and Kucoin. You can buy our merch from HeiseSays, use Gold Pass from the Perth Mint, or support us via PayPal. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day, and I'll see you next time.